What if one night you looked up and saw a bright new star appear in the sky, a star that had never been visible before? It could happen this June. And the reason starts with two stars locked in a deadly embrace. A recurrent nova begins with two stars bound in a tight orbit, a white dwarf, small and dense, and a red giant, bloated and bright. The red giant's outer layers are not held tightly. Gravity from the white dwarf pulls a steady stream of hydrogen from its companion, drawing it across the gap between them. This borrowed gas spirals down onto the white dwarf, forming a thin shell on its surface. Over years and decades, the pressure and heat in this layer quietly build. Nothing visible changes in the night sky. But deep in the darkness, the system is gathering fuel for something sudden and spectacular. When the white dwarf finally holds enough hydrogen, a runaway reaction ignites, transforming the system into a beacon that can briefly outshine the stars around it. This is the hidden tension at the heart of a recurrent nova. A slow, invisible accumulation, followed by a burst that lights up the sky. As the hydrogen layer on the white dwarf grows denser, pressure and temperature at the base quietly climb. When the conditions finally reach a critical point, the hydrogen ignites in a thermonuclear runaway. This is not the destruction of the star, but a fierce explosion confined to its outermost shell. In a matter of hours, energy from the reaction blasts the accumulated material outward at speeds reaching up to 3,000 kilometers per second. The system suddenly brightens, flaring into view as a new star where none was seen before. Yet this transformation is fleeting. The ejected shell expands and cools, and the brilliance fades back into darkness over the course of weeks. The white dwarf remains, unchanged at its core, ready to start the slow gathering of fuel once again. Each eruption is both an ending and a beginning, a cycle that can repeat for centuries, waiting for the next silent buildup in the shadows. T Coronae Borealis carries a name that hints at its history, the Blaze Star. Its story is not one of rumor or speculation, but of records and return. In May 1866, a sudden outburst transformed this quiet point in the constellation Coronae Borealis into a beacon rivaling the brightest stars. Newspapers called it a new star, and astronomers scrambled to understand what had happened. Nearly 80 years later, on a cold night in February 1946, Armin Deutsch at Yerkes Observatory became the first to spot the star's second eruption. Again, the system leapt to magnitude 2, shining with a blue-white brilliance that faded over the following weeks. The pattern was unmistakable, a dramatic rise, a brief plateau, then a slow return to darkness. With only two eruptions firmly documented, 1866 and 1946, T Coronae Borealis stands as the best-studied recurrent nova, its roughly 80-year cycle written into the archives of both science and memory. This is a star system with a memory, one that seems to count the decades in silence before flaring to life. T Coronae Borealis has entered a restless phase that astronomers recognize from the archives, a period when the system grows more volatile, flickering with a new intensity. Over the past 2 years, the star's B-band brightness has wavered more than 3 times its usual amount. This pattern, last seen in the years before the 1946 eruption, is considered a warning sign that the system is primed for another outburst. Early in 2023, a subtle dip in brightness appeared in the data, almost a signature of what came before the last eruption. Multiple observatories, both professional and amateur, recorded this change, matching the pre-eruption dip that preceded the previous explosion. Researchers have worked independently to pinpoint when the next eruption will occur. Gene Schneider calculated a most probable window centered on June 25, 2026, with a margin of about 10 days. Bradley Schaefer, whose expertise in variable stars is widely respected, reached a similar conclusion using the latest high-state light curve. Other teams, using different models and data, have converged on the same narrow time frame. This rare agreement across methods and institutions has focused attention on the final weeks of June 2026. No one can guarantee the exact night the Blaze Star will return, but the convergence of evidence is striking. The system's superactive state, the pre-eruption dip, and the surge in mass transfer all point to the same window. Around the world, astronomers are watching the data stream in, waiting for the moment when a star that has slept for generations may suddenly blaze into view. To witness the blaze star's return, step outside after dusk during the watch period in June. The constellation Coronae Borealis, or the Northern Crown, forms a delicate arc high in the northern sky. At the center of this arc is where T Coronae Borealis will flare to life. The best view comes from a spot with a clear horizon to the north, and as little artificial light as possible. Let your eyes adjust to the darkness for at least 20 minutes. This simple patience lets faint details sharpen, and when the outburst happens, the star will appear unmistakably bright. At its peak, the blaze star should rival Arcturus, the orange beacon in the spring sky, outshining most of its neighbors. No telescope is required. For a few nights, perhaps only a week or two, a star that has slept for generations will shine with the brilliance of the greats. But the moment is fleeting. The nova will fade swiftly, returning to obscurity as quickly as it arrived. For those who catch it, the memory will linger long after the light is gone. Soon, millions may look up and witness a cosmic outburst unseen for generations. For one brief moment, an ancient system reminds us the universe still holds surprises for those who watch.